Love this podcast? Support us by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Hit the link in the episode description to support us now. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
Hey, Rolando, when you drive, because we both live in New Jersey, do you ever sing to yourself the theme song from The Sopranos?
No, I do not.
Good for you. Neither do I, but I have been asked many times, one, if I sing that song, and two, if I could take people who don't live in New Jersey and who are visiting New Jersey around to show them where The Sopranos was filmed, which is such an interesting request every time I'm asked it.
It's also not a very photogenic area.
It's not. Well, I mean, so I didn't watch too many of the seasons, but if you really watch that opening, like they're showing you.
They're showing you, yeah, it's like Kearney, it's Newark,
yeah,
it's like
downtown, West Side, Jersey City, the Turnpike, where the nuclear power plant is in Elizabeth, like just not the nicest stuff of New Jersey.
Right. They make it look so grungy, and the song makes it feel even grungier, right? That like the boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
that's how the sound goes.
That was actually pretty good. I heard it
you.
in my head when you said that.
Of course, everyone probably everyone who's listening to this and is listening because we're covering The Sopranos heard that sound effect in their head.
Yeah,
and you for some reason you're imagining yourself being Fat Tony. Nope, that's The Simpsons. Just Tony.
Just Tony, yeah.
Just Tony. Just driving through North Jersey.
Yeah, and if you grew up in the early aughts and you were in this area, The Sopranos was like a huge deal and was something that everyone was talking about at all times. And it was probably like the first biggest TV show that I can recall, and just saw the power of TV on people, really, honestly, because people freaking love this shit.
Definitely has its place in television history. And the question is, was it a history that needed to be revisited?
That is a good question. And so, stay tuned. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about unoriginality. So HBO growing up was kind of like the cool thing to have. But the fact that they had to resort to making a Sopranos movie, I think, speaks somewhat true to the fact that they're lacking in content, because at one time in the late 90s and the early aughts, HBO was king. And if you didn't have HBO, you were missing out on the best television around. With shows like The Sopranos, Sex and the City,
Entourage.
No, that show sucks.
I agree, it does suck, but like it was a very popular show.
Well, I'm talking about like not only popular shows but critically lauded shows. So Entourage is not part of this.
No, that show like would win Emmys also for comedy.
This show is now universally accepted as to being not very good.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it's just like you can try to say I don't think Entourage is a good show. I'm just saying, but like when it was out,
I guess. I mean, maybe it did win awards and stuff.
Yeah, Jeremy Piven won. What's it called? I'm pretty sure he was nominated at least for a couple of Emmys.
Yeah, and where is he now? So The Wire,
The Wire, Oz,
6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so these are shows that really marked a new era in television, because prior to that, a lot of the most prolific television shows people were watching were on, your main channels, NBC, ABC, CBS, all that jazz. HBO marked a new era for, no commercials. You had to get a subscription to it, and like no frills, not even, how do we say, it was like cinematic television. And this is what brought in this golden age that we're kind of in.
Wait, you're making it seem like HBO wasn't around until the 90s, but it was around since the 70s.
Yeah, but that's when it like redefined television and redefined television
yes,
standards.
In terms of its programming, yes, but like
well, we're not talking about HBO history, and
yeah,
we're just talking about The Sopranos and how much it meant for HBO and for television.
Okay.
So unless you feel it's necessary to dive deep into HBO history?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay,
Deep,
all right.
I just think it's just like, let's not make it seem.
But yeah, don't think that
HBO didn't come out in the 90s or early, like HBO hit its stride, I would say, in that time period. But for the most part, it was already people, HBO was HBO, right?
Yes.
It's
Thank
not
you for
cable.
adding that. Yes.
It's not cable. It's
But
HBO.
exactly. After the early aughts of The Sopranos, that's when, AMC started releasing shows like Mad Men and Breaking Bad. And then, in the 2010s, sorry, Netflix starts becoming a thing, right? So television has never been the same since then. And if we really look back, it really kind of starts with shows like The Sopranos.
Mhm.
And, they make a lot of these lists of the greatest television shows of all time. And so many of them put The Sopranos not only in the top 10, but some of them put it at number 1, right? People love this show.
Yes.
I think they love the fact that it brought in a new era of television that was pretty much so cinematic that now TV is actually more of an art form than films are.
Yeah, The Sopranos. I mean, you could say this. The Sopranos definitely ushered in that golden era of TV. Where right now we're in peak TV. Sopranos ushered in the golden era of TV is what it's called.
Yeah.
Colloquially, I don't know if it's like an actual.
Yeah, actually, I wonder because there was, the early 50s is also considered a golden age of television. So maybe we're in a silver age or maybe we're in a renaissance.
It may be just a second coming.
The second
of television.
coming? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because they used to do a lot of teleplays and they used to actually. Do a lot of arts
there's
in the
another word
50s.
for it. Prestige TV. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. Prestige TV is what we're in now. Technically we're in peak TV, but it's this idea where there's so much television programming, and by television programming, obviously it could include streaming, but it's just the idea that like before the actual creators were like, your main broadcast stations, and then HBO, Showtime had shows too and stuff, but the big shows to watch for were like HBO and but yeah.
And this was also like HBO didn't really have a lot of competition back then. Like everyone was watching The Sopranos, everybody was glued, everybody knew at least about it if you weren't watching it. And then Game of Thrones, like how Game of Thrones is so ubiquitous in our society, The Sopranos was kind of like that 20 years ago. But now we have Netflix and we have Hulu and we have Amazon. We have so many competition that it's hard to say who's the king in all of this. But at one time, HBO was king.
Oh, actually, I'm so glad you brought that up. Do you know that it's looking like, I think there was a study out, and it looks like in the next 5 years, Disney Plus might be the second biggest streaming service. Unless things take a dire change for the worse, it's looking like it will be the second biggest streaming service in the world.
After Netflix?
After Netflix, yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm not surprised.
Their numbers are growing in such a ridiculous pace. And it's going to become, I mean, you know how we have the big 3 networks, right? Like it was ABC, NBC, CBS. Like it's going to be the big 3 streaming services, which I'm assuming is Netflix, Disney, and I don't know, maybe Amazon Prime. I don't really want to count Hulu because that falls under Disney.
Yeah, and Paramount, what does that fall under? And Paramount's not really a top 3.
Paramount is its own thing, right? Paramount is Paramount Studios and stuff. So unless Disney gobbles up Paramount or Warner Brothers gobbles up Paramount,
it could.
It's in the potential. Peacock, for example, is struggling.
Oh God, yeah. Peacock hasn't really had anything, has it?
Yeah. We covered Saved by the Bell and Punky Brewster, and I think to my knowledge, that's all they have.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about. The Sopranos. When you were growing up, did you watch it? Did your family watch it? Was it something that you guys talked about at home in your classrooms? Because I'm assuming you were in high school.
Yeah, I think I was in high school when the show came out, right? What year did The Sopranos come out?
It came out in 1999.
Oh God, I was in 8th grade. No, I didn't watch it. I didn't start watching it until I was in high school for sure. Probably my sophomore, senior year, because I think at that point I had my junior. I think my junior year. At that point, one of my good friends, she was into the show and stuff, and we just caught it, would catch it, and man, I don't even think on demand was like a thing yet, right? So like, I was like watching. I remember one of the earliest episodes I saw was the one where Tony is taking, I don't know if it was a rerun, but Tony was taking Meadow to college, and there's like the murder and stuff that happens. Anyway, yeah, it wasn't a show. I only watched it because a friend of mine was watching it and stuff, and then in college, by my sophomore year, that's when the show's actually in its final run.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's when I was watching it regularly and catching up also with some of the previous seasons and stuff. So,
Okay.
no, I wasn't really watching it as it was running. I was really watching it more so in the tail end because that's when we had cable.
Me too.
The frat house. The frat house loved the fucking Sopranos.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it when I was younger. I know my mother did, but like I guess when I was in early years of high school, I was watching a little bit more, which actually, now I think about it, was maybe slightly inappropriate, but whatever, it happens.
I mean, weren't we all watching porn by then? Because we had AOL.
I mean, yeah, I guess some of us were. I wasn't, because I think
majority
never really
of
been into that.
Kids
so.
our age were already like going on Pornhub. Not
Oh, yeah,
Pornhub
no,
wasn't a thing. Whatever was the equivalent back then. Ampland, I think is what it was called.
Well, we were all in chat rooms and exploiting people.
That's also true, yeah.
And pretending to be people we weren't and getting pictures and
Mhm.
naughty stuff. So the internet definitely ruined us.
For sure.
But yeah, and I was out of high school by the time the show ended. I never watched it religiously, though. It just was never something that called to me. And maybe it was this whole like, it's a New Jersey based show and everyone's just like so into it and like, you know, oh yeah, hey, New Jersey, this is our state emblem now. It's the fucking Sopranos. That part of me is like, ugh, whatever. You know, I had
And
to
you're half
always be a
Italian.
nonconformist. And my last name is Pometti, like Pometti.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's from Italy. So
Yeah.
so yeah, which is interesting too, because I actually enjoy the genre of crime as a film television, especially with mob. And I know you don't.
Yeah, I don't.
But you watched The Sopranos more than I did. So that's an interesting little role reversal.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching it, you know, I was a follower, I guess. Like,
Wow.
friends of mine were watching it, and, you know, you only have one TV to share. So it's just like, I was at my friend's house, so I watched it with her. I was at the frat house. We had one big screen TV that had the cable, and everyone would watch The Sopranos. So I guess I was watching Sopranos and stuff. And, you know, the show was good, and it was beloved by critics for a reason. I think it was, in terms of quality programming, like, you did not get better than The Sopranos, to be quite honest, you know?
Very good. Very well written scripts, fleshed out characters, a lot of humor, but it also like showed us a new light on, you know, the stereotypical crime family and crime boss.
And a lot of like spirituality, mysticism.
Yeah, I would say.
In retrospect, as I was revisiting the show, you know, for the podcast and stuff, like rewatching some of the episodes, I forgot. It's just like, geez, like they did some weird stuff. Like I remember I was complaining to you about the season when Tony got shot, right? And I've told you, it's just like, it's one of my least favorite seasons because it's just like everyone's just like, oh, dealing with their mortality, which I guess happens when like the crime boss is shot. But there's also this one episode where like he imagines his life as somebody else. And like it's like a dream sequence, like most of the episode and stuff. It is just like so weird. He also got a phone call once from God. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that. No.
It was played by David Chase, the creator of the show.
Well, then that's appropriate.
Truly.
You know, it's interesting because when I rewatch the show, it's like I see obvious influences from the big mob movies. You know, like I see Godfather influences, I see Martin Scorsese influences, but then I see something that those films never really did, especially in the first episode, which is Tony is almost like longing to be someone that he's not and to have something that he's not, you know, like someone who's actually unhappy and has a moral, even though I do think Tony Soprano is a sociopath, not even psychopath, just a sociopath. He's violent and he's narcissistic and all of that. He's got a lot of huge flaws, but deep down
I don't know
inside,
if he's sociopathic.
I kind of think he is.
Let me see. A psychopath has a lack of guilt, remorse, and empathy. A sociopath has a lack of remorse, but guilt and empathy may be present in some cases. Yeah, you're right. He's sociopathic.
Yeah.
Not psychopathic.
Okay. All right, cool. I almost doubted myself for a second there. I was like, wait, am I mixing them up? I do think he's sociopathic, but at the same time, he has guilt and he's really suffering from them. He suffers from panic attacks. He's depressed and he was thrown into a life that he didn't want. And then it's also very psychological. First of all, he sees a therapist
Dr. Melfi.
And you can actually, the show paints a really good picture of how this guy was actually, fucked up from his birth, and how he was molded into this person by his parents and by his whole family, and the lifestyle that he was just kind of born into. Which, if you don't know what The Sopranos is about, it revolves around Tony Soprano, who is based in New Jersey. He's in the mafia. He's in organized crime, and it follows his family, his crime family, and his at-home family, and that the fact that he feels, he's suffocated in his life, and that he's suffocating so much that he has to see a therapist. So most of the show is actually him talking to the therapist, and then and then we expand in later seasons with other characters, because there's a huge cast of characters.
There is, I would say, predominantly most of the characters that we see in season 1 are the ones that we follow throughout the season, unless they die, and many do die.
Many die.
And some die shocking deaths and stuff,
Yes. And this show does not shy away of what it would be like to live in this type of life, which is betrayal and violent deaths.
Right.
The most important characters being his wife, Carmela, their 2 children, Meadow and AJ.
Ugh, AJ was my least favorite.
Yeah. His mother, Livia.
Olivia. She dies what, season 2 or season 3, something like that.
Yeah,
Spoiler,
so.
guys. Sorry,
she dies. He has a sister, but she's not as present in it.
She is Janice, and everyone hates her.
Yes, yeah, she has no sense of responsibility and all that stuff. His uncle, Junior.
Uncle Junior, yeah.
Who's the crime boss. He's the reigning crime boss.
He is the reigning crime boss. He suffers through debilitating dementia.
Later on,
as the season progresses, he's the reason he shoots Tony, right? And oh man, that was, if it is one performance of the show that I do like, it is Uncle Junior, to be honest. And I think that ending with him is like so sad. But yeah, go on.
And his protege, Christopher, I think would be the last most important person to state.
You forgot Paulie Walnuts.
I feel like
Pussy.
But Christopher is his protege. Christopher is very important. The rest of them are just kind of like, they are supporting.
Yeah. Chris, you're right. Christopher is like his brother from another mother.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And
Christopher
and his relationship is very complex.
It is, right? So Tony Soprano does take a lot of responsibility in kind of helping Christopher out, because he looked up to his father. So his father is never seen in the show, or I don't think he's ever seen in the show, even in the flashbacks.
I don't believe so.
And but he's like a very mythic figure in the show, to the point where I think in one of the episodes, Tony reveals to Christopher how his father died, and he asked Christopher, is like, now's your chance to like get revenge. And then when he gets the guy is like, it's just like, I don't know who told you that, but I did not do this. And poor Christopher, at this moment, he has like a coming to Jesus moment where he's just like, well, it doesn't matter if what you're saying is true or not. Tony wants you dead, and I had to kill you. I had to see this through. And Tony, I mean, that was, talk about like fucking up a person, right? Like poor Christopher suffered so much at the hands of Tony Soprano. And that was kind of, you're right, he is one of the main characters, because that is one of the most important relationships that Tony Soprano has. I keep saying the full name Tony Soprano, but Tony.
Yeah. It just rolls off the tongue, Tony Soprano. And we should also say that there's going to be major spoilers. So if you've never watched The Sopranos and you would like to see it, and you would like to see the new film, then you should stop listening and go watch it right now. Because the big thing is that this relationship that he has with Christopher, he's kind of like a father figure, and that he's a protege. And something that shocks people is that later on, Christopher dies at the hands of Tony, which is, nobody saw that coming. Super complex, and like, what the fuck?
I don't know if you can say that you never saw that coming. It was a final season.
Oh. So what do you mean? Like, so they just fucking kill everybody?
Yeah, they were killing so many people. There was a point where I thought Paulie Walnuts was gonna be murdered by Tony. I was just like, not Paulie, not poor Paulie. He survived.
Yeah,
by the skin of his teeth.
He did. Yes.
I don't remember the circumstances around Christopher's death. Do you?
Yeah. Well, so
But that was the final season.
it was the
Go
final
ahead.
season. So Christopher has an addiction problem throughout most
Right.
of the series. One
He
that
also became a movie director.
screenwriter,
Okay.
which is something that they actually referenced to in the very first episode, which is interesting. It's almost like they knew that whole arc was going to happen, which they might have, which is good
He might have,
writing.
yeah. David Chase might have.
And that, he was also potentially going to be a Henry Hill, rat people out, but he just kind of became disillusioned with crime and went to Hollywood and all this stuff. And he was so irresponsible with his drug addiction, and Tony, feeling somewhat betrayed, feeling like he had so much to deal with Christopher. While Christopher is driving him home one night, Christopher crashes the car while he's high.
Yeah.
And Tony
that's
almost
right.
dies. And then he sees
The baby
like,
seat.
the baby seat, and then
Yeah.
he's had enough and he strangles him.
I remember that. That was a brutal scene too.
Yeah.
I forgot. So in the movie that he had written was basically based off of Tony Soprano,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And Tony starts thinking that Chris is out to get him, so it started igniting a little fear in him. So there's a little bit of fight or flight too at the same time. That's right. It all comes back to me now.
Yeah.
It
So-
comes rushing back.
Crazy. And that's the thing too, is that you have to look out for yourself in this life. Trust no one. The fact that he's suffering from panic attacks and depression is fucking duh. I'm so glad that this show this is something that they address that no other film or TV show had, I guess, addressed before that, because of course he is. He thinks he's going to probably die every second of his life.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that does a number on your ticker.
Yes, it does. So the show lasted for 6 seasons. They split the last season into 2 parts.
Yes.
And it was a whole event. And I think one of the most famous things about this show is actually the season finale.
Series finale.
Series finale. Yes, thank you. It was one of the most watched ones, and people were just talking about it, and people are really divided about it. How do you feel about the series finale?
I remember hating it when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember this distinctly, right? So it's like you're hearing "Don't Stop Believing." Meadows like backing up, trying to parallel park. People are coming in and out of the diner, and Tony keeps looking up. And there's so much tension in this scene.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts to black. And when it cuts to black, I remember we all were just like, "What happened? What did the cable go out?" We're all freaking out. And then 30 seconds to a minute later, the credits start rolling, and we're just like, "Oh, that's how it ends." And at the moment, I hated it. I was mad. I was just like, this is what a whack ending. However, after letting it sit, you come back to it. It's just like, that was actually a pretty interesting way of ending it. I actually have come to appreciate the ending. It's very open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
Does Tony die? I don't know. Do you want to believe that he's going to die? Probably. I mean, if you look at all the fan theories, he was marked at that point. And but I think David Chase himself has said that part of the ending, the reason it's like that is just because it doesn't matter what happens after the screen goes black. Whether or not these characters, it doesn't matter because this story ends here.
Yep.
And it's for a creator to say that, I think it's kind of lovely because I actually like that. It's just it's true. Like this is why I've never really been down with film theories and TV show theories and all this stuff, because it's just it doesn't matter unless we're seeing it. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really great too. And I think that when art does that, when it just kind of delivers something for you and it's like, okay, what do you take from it? I think that's the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think something is always at its most successful when it does that. Another television show that kind of ended in that way was Mad Men, and I thought it was one of the best endings I ever saw. It kind of it made me think, it was like, what the hell is this supposed to mean? And I just spent so much time with it, and I love those kind of works of media, of art, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a fan of it too.
Yeah.
Do you think they died? What do you think?
I think the evidence is compelling to say that they died. I think Tony died.
Oh, you don't think that they would have killed?
I don't think they would have killed the family.
You really don't think that?
I don't think they would have killed the family. No way. I don't think so.
No witnesses.
Maybe AJ, because he was so insufferable by the end of the series.
Yeah, maybe.
But there's no way you're not gonna kill Carmela. Usually, you do that. You want witnesses there, so they spread the word. To see the horrific violence and stuff. So yeah, no.
I suppose so. But also, it's like they don't care about Carmela. They don't give a shit about her.
I cared about Carmela.
Aw, that's sweet.
I cared about Carmela. Do you have a favorite character or a favorite? Yeah, well, we'll start off a favorite character.
My gosh, no, I don't think I have a favorite character because I haven't spent that much time with The Sopranos to have that investment. Maybe
not
the
even
therapist.
Dr. Melfi. I mean, everyone
I would
loves.
say,
I feel like everyone loves Dr. Melfi. She goes through a pretty horrific rape. That is like,
and everyone loves that. Yeah.
No.
So I think the way you said that.
It's because I think it's like in retrospect, it's kind of fucked up that they put her through that because I don't remember storyline wise. Like it was kind of like almost like unrelated. Like it was just like a random act of violence. I could be mistaken that I don't remember. Again, the circumstances, right? Because it's been a while since I've seen the show, but I do remember feeling it's when that happened. I was just like, this is, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't watched that. I remember that happening though, and it's always weird when television shows kind of take big issues like that and have one of their characters go through it. Like in the L Word, famously in the third season, they kill off one of their characters as a kind of like a breast cancer awareness thing. And
I didn't mean to laugh. It is October. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I laugh. It's just like that's a horrible thing to do with the characters. Like, we're gonna kill you off so that we spread awareness.
Like, this is what it's like. This is and you get to see and to maybe arouse sympathy out of people, to show them like tell the story of millions of people who have gone through this. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I can't really speak to that and of whether or not it was needed or what it said because I haven't rewatched it. But I do. It's something that I always remember about that character. So I guess it's had its impact in that way. But also, it's rape.
It is, but I think one of the reasons it's not a good, but like it's like an interesting storyline for her because she has always struggled with Tony's bad side, right? And that's what she's trying to help him work through. And there comes a moment where she kind of is not judging, but like kind of trying to determine, just like, do I turn to Tony for help? The law failed me. Like the law let this guy get away. Like, do I turn to Tony to do what the law can't do, right? And that was, I think, an interesting dilemma to present to her. How it took her to the second to last episode to realize that Tony Soprano was a sociopath as you. I don't know. She must not be a very good therapist, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, she was trying the best she could be to be professional, but she drops him as a patient in the end, doesn't she?
Yeah, in the second to last episode, when she realizes that he's unfixable, she's just like, I cannot work with you. She also had like a dinner with like all her psychiatrist friends. And they're like, you're working with a mob lord, right? And she's like, what? No way. It's just like Dr. Melfi. Like, it's been we've been following you for 6 seasons at this point, 6.5.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Dr. Melfi's cool.
Yeah, do you have a favorite character?
I know I was making fun of Janice. No one likes Janice because she is kind of a mess. Mm-hmm. I like Janice and her messiness. Like, after she got beat up by her boyfriend, she goes and shoot him and she has to clean up that mess. That I don't know why it resonates. But to be honest, it would be either Junior or Liv, Tony's mom, because she's so cold. I mean, she tried to have her son killed, Like, this woman is not well, and her performance is also so good. She's just so vicious and cold, and I love that. Yeah. Absolutely no warmth towards Tony Soprano. It's just like, well, why would you have any warmth towards him?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
so.
You know what? In retrospect, I resonated more with the Willies because not Dr. Melfi, but Carmela's another one that I resonated with. Not Andrea, Adriana.
Yeah, Adriana.
Yeah, Adriana's another one where I was so sad when she died.
Up. Yeah,
it's
fucked
up. Despite the fact we don't see it, right? So there are some theories out there that she's still alive, but she's dead.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Like, they spared us having to witness the murder, but like she's gone. She's a goner.
Yeah. So I mean, they created such a huge world in this show. So many characters, so many stories, so many side plots. That I guess it was inevitable that they would have brought it back in some way. But
I don't know. That's not true if it was inevitable, because David Chase made it very clear that he
was not going to do, like, Tony Soprano was not going to come back in any shape or form and after that story ended. But it's interesting because you said his response was, it doesn't matter what you think happens after Black. This is where the story ends. He was open at least to going back to where the story begins.
Yeah.
And I guess, prequel is always
lucky us.
Yeah, something that people are always interested in seeing. And yet sometimes you do wonder, did I need this? Did I really want to see this? Was this the answer to any questions I had? Or does it put things into more perspective? Does it make me want to revisit The Sopranos? Right? All these questions go around when we watch The Many Saints of Newark.
Right. So before we go into that, I have a quick question for you.
No.
What is your opinion on prequels in general?
It depends. Okay, so I'm even trying to think of a prequel that I really love, and I'm just drawn.
You didn't like the Harry Potter prequels?
No. Well, I don't even know if I technically qualify that for prequels, because
why?
Is that
it's a prequel.
We're seeing to Harry Potter's story, or just it happens to take place in the Harry Potter shared universe 100 years earlier to his, birth.
Aren't we watching Dumbledore's rise?
Yeah, but that's Dumbledore's story, not Harry Potter's. If
He's
it was
important
a James and Lily Potter thing, I would consider that a prequel. If it was a direct link to Harry Potter, it's not that direct. It's a link to Dumbledore and Voldemort, so.
I guess. Okay.
What about Star Wars? Did you like the Star Wars prequels? Those were a direct link to the
I didn't
Star
like
Wars. Yeah, they were not very good. Yeah.
They just weren't.
What else?
I mean, I know I have friends arguing with me. It's just like, they're still better than the sequels. I'm just like, I would rather watch the sequels than ever watch the
I thought people
prequels.
loved the sequels.
The new ones. I'm talking about the newest ones. Not diehard Star Wars fans. Diehard Star Wars fans need to hate them. I just think they hate anything that's new.
Yeah, this is true. Well, we actually saw a pretty good prequel this year.
What was it?
Cruella.
Yes, but I also made the argument that I didn't need it because I thought it could have been a good movie on its own.
But do we ever need a prequel?
No, I don't think that's the thing. That's I guess what I was trying to fish for. I don't think we ever need prequels, right? I just don't. Prequels are hard because we know where we are in the future. So it's just what you have to present something very compelling, something so shocking that I just wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
To really make a prequel worthwhile. And
absolutely.
The Many Saints of Newark, they try to do that with the big reveal that Dickie Moltisanti, Christopher's father, we were led to believe that he was a drug addict, right? And the big mystery was, how did he die? And this movie tries to explain that, but all right. To what effect? To what end? So now we can get into this. I suppose.
I was also going to say one more thing is that the most successful prequel I ever saw was also a sequel, and it's one of the. That's the only way you could tackle it is if you're okay, we're going to make a sequel to a really successful film, but we're also going to make it a prequel, and we're going to tell both stories at the same time. That's The Godfather Part 2. Really fucking good movie.
That is a good movie.
And they did it right after. Right, so they finished up Michael's story, and then they gave you a little bit more perspective on Vito's, and having those two those two stories complement each other in the same film was a chef's kiss.
Of course, yeah. No, good catch. There you go. You finally found one. But that one, but we were still in the present though. So even though we were watching the past,
the prequel and a sequel.
Yeah, but the prequel. Not that it didn't matter. All we were doing was just seeing what ultimately led to this moment, right? But it was still a sequel.
But it was also, so you don't consider any of Vito Corleone's any sort of a prequel at all?
No. I agree with you. It's a prequel. I cutting up a prequel and a sequel together, brilliant, because we're still watching the sequel is still the more important part of the present story. The past is just telling us, it's just filling in the blanks of how did we get to here and stuff, right? And we're seeing and we're seeing the juxtaposition. We're seeing the parallelism.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Story wise, the one we're here for is Michael and the A, B, and C. But again, I think those parallels between Vito's rise and Michael's kind of fall, and Michael, dissolving even further to it, I think they complement each other really beautifully, and actually makes
wonderfully.
it way more tragic. So,
but that's why I think it's but it's not like a prequel. It's not like, it's not just a soul prequel, right? So do you think if The Godfather 2 was just the past, right? If that was just packaged up as a whole movie, would it have worked?
Oh, probably not. But that's also why I think The Godfather Part 2 was so good, is because they put both in one. If it was just a sequel, would it have been that good? No.
Right. No, same thing. Yeah, I agree with you.
Sure.
We're
agreeing in different ways.
We are agreeing, but I'm also saying it's just like, I don't know if it counts fully as a prequel.
Yeah, as an answer to your question, then maybe it doesn't. But
yeah,
prequel and sequel together is a winning combo, apparently. I don't know if another film has done and worked as well as Godfather Part 2, but anywho, let's
TV
digress.
Shows, I feel like I was gonna say TV shows try to do that, I guess, when they start off with a flash forward, and then we have to like
like Lost
season.
Did that the whole time?
Did Lost do that? When did Lost do that?
Oh, all Lost did was like it was like their life before they got on the plane, and then them on the island. It was like constantly every episode back and forth between a different character.
Oh, I was thinking more of like Revenge, where the beginning of the season ended, was like the middle of the season. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, let's get back to this is what you guys are here for. Many Saints of Newark. Let's get into it.
So this was actually written by David Chase, the creator of The Sopranos, with Lawrence Conner. So he had a big part in this.
He was supposed to direct.
He was?
Yeah.
I wonder why he didn't.
I don't remember what fell through, but instead they got Aaron Taylor, right?
Alan Taylor,
and he is he's worked on a lot of Sopranos episodes.
Yes, he has.
He's a name that shows up as one of the directors. Did he direct Pine Barrens?
That's a good question. Let's see.
I'll look it up while you continue.
He did not.
He did not. Wow, shocker. Pine Barrens is like hailed as one of the best episodes of The Sopranos.
Yeah, everybody loves that episode.
It's a good episode. I think the one where he takes Meadow to college is a better episode. That's just me. Maybe because I was about to go to college too at the same time, and maybe deep down I wanted to ask my dad. It's just like, are you in a mob? He wasn't.
Oh, we've all wanted to have that conversation with our dad growing up.
I think so. Yeah.
So a couple years ago, HBO greenlit that they would tell the growing up story of Tony Soprano. They would provide a prequel to the Tony Soprano story, and I don't know if it was ever going to be in any form other than a film. But for a couple years now, they've been saying that this was going to happen, and bam, here it is, Many Saints of Newark.
Yeah.
Do you know
David
about
Chase,
that?
When it was announced.
No, like if it was going to be a miniseries.
Oh, no. I think David Chase actually never wanted The Sopranos to be a series.
He wanted it to be a film?
He wanted it to be a film. He actually prefers film than TV. He has a very, very fraught history with the show, right?
Does
he?
But
yeah. So he did not. I don't think he wanted it. I don't think he wanted the sequel the prequel to be. He had no. It didn't. It doesn't. From the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like he wanted this to be a TV show. I think he was trying to make it just a singular movie.
Oh, interesting.
He's also a very staunch believer that movies should be 2 hours or less. David Chase has very, very strict beliefs here.
Interesting. Well, then I'm gonna talk about that.
I wish you all could see the face Nicole made when I said that.
Yeah. So we're gonna tell the story of the Tony Soprano growing up and coming into this life of crime, and then we're gonna go to Christopher's father, Dickie Moltisanti, and tell his story at the same time. So this is not just Tony's story; we're also getting Christopher father's story.
Out of curiosity, are you telling me what the movie was marketed as, or what this movie was? Because I disagree with you.
So I'm telling you what this film is actually about, but I think a lot of people did not know that this is not just about Tony Soprano.
I'm going to say this movie is barely about Tony Soprano. This movie is about Dickie and his family drama, and Tony Soprano is just there for the ride a little bit. What is the opposite of a Bronx Tale? Because that's what this movie was. A Jersey nightmare.
I guess the Many Saints of Newark.
Yeah.
The opposite of a Bronx Tale.
I don't mean the name. I don't mean the actual movie. I meant like because the Bronx Tale. So the Bronx Tale was a story about this young kid who really loves like the mob life, right? And he really befriends like one of the mob lords, and like he really becomes embroiled in it, like entrapped in it. This movie is almost the opposite of that, by which I mean Dickie is apparently like a father figure, but like I think they only had like a couple of scenes together that I could tell, and Tony was kind of not interested in the mob life at all, so the opposite of a Bronx Tale. But somehow, some way, the movie was marketed to be like, this is how Tony became Tony Soprano. Just like,
yeah.
When did this happen? Because I have opinions, guys.
Yeah, marketing is so important. I actually just recently read a book that was marketed to be one thing, and then when I read it was something else, and it really affected my enjoyment of the book. Mm-hmm. And I do see that happening with this film, right? Everybody thinks this is pretty much like you're going to see the rise of Tony Soprano.
Yeah, David Chase was really not happy about the marketing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, is that this is how fucking movies work, man. Like, can anybody be surprised about this?
No, but I am too. I'm kind of mad about it too, to be honest, because first of all, let's get one thing straight here. How much did you keep hearing about James Gandolfini's son, who we actually haven't talked about? We've skirted around the thing. James Gandolfini.
This is true. Yeah, James Gandolfini plays Tony Soprano. I mean, he won many awards for it. Very lauded performance. It defined his career. It almost put him into that box, unfortunately. But
yes.
He, like Tony Soprano, he was Tony Soprano. People could not remove the two from one another. And, it was a beautiful but terrible thing, maybe. Kind of like how Bela Lugosi was never able to do anything but Dracula. Mm-hmm. After that, sometimes the person does a role that defines them, and then they can never break out of that.
Right. And then he passed away, and here we are now in 2020. I think it's when they filmed this. 2020? I think 2020. When did they film it? Do you know?
Well, it was supposed to be released last year, but then
okay, so I guess 2019 is when they were filming. But his son plays Tony Soprano, and how much did I hear about Michael Gandolfini?
Yeah,
that like it's just like, oh, Michael Gandolfini, and I'm just like, okay, and the guy's like in it for like I think a combined 20 minutes, if that. That is actually me being very generous. He's like maybe in it like 15 minutes.
Yeah, he's not the star of the film, and that's something that people probably were not anticipating.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was texting you while we were watching this movie, and I was just like, it's been an hour. Where I don't understand. Where's Michael Gandolfini? Everyone has been praising his performance, and when I'm finished with this movie, I'm just like, what did he do? What did he do? He did, like, why are we praising his performance? He was just on screen, and he looks a little bit like Tony Soprano.
Yeah, so I didn't really read a lot about this, and I'm not a big Sopranos fan in general, so I kind of didn't have that expectation going into this. Mm-hmm. And I think that actually worked to my favor, because at the end of the day, I just got like a mob movie, and those are movies that I enjoy them more than you do, and I can follow them pretty easily because they're really convoluted with all these different fucking characters and stuff, and I've watched so many of them that it's like, I know how to keep up with the pace. So I enjoyed this film on that level, and it didn't bother me that, Michael was, and you told me actually before I watched it, so I already anticipated that. But I do think that a lot of people are going to be disappointed.
What did I tell you?
Before I watched it, you had texted me that. I hadn't watched the film until then.
Oh, really?
Really?
Wow, I watched it last night before recording this podcast. So like you were cutting it close, girl.
Yes, I was, but whatever, I watched it. I do think that other people are going to feel the same way as you, and I do think that that's one of the biggest critiques of this film. But I do have one bigger one that a lot of other people have, but let's talk a little bit about what this film's about. Like I said,
sorry guys, I just jumped right into this because I have so much to complain about.
It's okay. Dickie Moltisanti, it's his story. I don't even know how to go about this. I mean, it takes place in Newark in the 60s. He's the son of Hollywood Dick Moltisanti.
played by Ray Liotta.
Played by Ray Liotta.
In one of two roles that Ray Liotta plays.
Yes. You know, he's pretty much lives under his father's shadows at the beginning of the film, and because of many different reasons, he actually becomes the crime boss at the end of it.
Are you trying to avoid spoilers?
Yes, I am trying to avoid some spoilers because this is more brand new. The Sopranos, it's been on the air for a long time. We'll spoil it.
That's fair.
I'll try and avoid some of these. So yeah, he is the crime boss at the end of it. So, you know, we see him get what he got and the ways that he got it. And he is kind of a father figure to Tony Soprano because Tony's father, he goes to prison for some time, but other than that too, he's just like not the best fucking role model. He doesn't actually spend time with his son. You know, he's just kind of aloof most of the time. And his mother is quite terrible. She blames everyone even though she feels like she's a victim. And she plays terrible mind games.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a terrible mother. She's truly terrible.
I think it was a great performance from
Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, and I know her from the Conjuring series, but I thought she if there were only two actresses, two performances here in the movie that moved me, and it was her and the one who played Giuseppina, her.
Yeah.
Actually, not to take away from Leslie Odom, no.
Leslie Odom Jr. Yeah,
I was right. Okay, Leslie Odom Jr. He was another good performance.
So Vera Farmiga, was it me or did they not try and do everything that they could to make her look like Carmela?
Oh well, that I was confused by that too at first. I was just like,
"What are they doing?" Yeah,
but I think that was intentional, right? Like I think they were trying to make it like that Tony ended up with someone who just looked a lot like his mom.
Yeah, that he has some women issues because of this woman, you know. So so I actually really enjoyed that. And yeah, she disappeared into that role. And you know, you put a fake nose on anyone and they'll disappear. They'll become someone else. So
but she was able to still make it her own role, right? So here's one of my critiques. So I know, sorry, you haven't gotten to your big critique, but one of my things I had to complain about this movie, and this is a problem with prequels, is that we're seeing actors playing other actors, right? So it's weird for me to see Corey Stoll play Junior because it's just like, all right, but he's just doing an imitation of the original actor who played Junior, and you could see it in like the body language and the way he moved and talked, and it was just like, it wasn't Corey Stoll's performance, it was an imitation of whoever played Junior.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the weird part, which is honestly what I will say about Michael Gandolfini too. He was doing an imitation of Tony Soprano's accent. And that's it. I was just like this is all right. Let's not throw out the word Oscar nomination here for a supporting actor.
I don't think he's gonna get it. Maybe a Golden Globe. So
I hope not.
The Golden Globe I see. So Emily Blunt in Mary Poppins is a great example of you stepping into the shoes of someone who defined that role. I mean, Julie Andrews won an Oscar for Mary Poppins, and Emily Blunt decided that she was going to take Mary Poppins and make it her own. And it was a bold choice. I mean, there's actually not a lot about Emily Blunt's Mary Poppins that reminds you of Julie Andrews's, right? She actually does it closer to the way that, P.L. Travers wrote that. And it's which is kind of weird when you're watching Mary Poppins Returns, because how can they recognize her? She's definitely a different Mary Poppins. But if you're an actor, I actually think that that's the best way to go about it. If I were an actor, I would go about it that way, because it's like, well, everyone's always going to compare me to this other thing, and I'm always going to, be under the microscope, that I might as well make it my own, right? So I do think that Vera Farmiga, props to her on that decision, because I think she really, I mean, what a performance. It was fantastic. She was one of the best performances in the whole film, for sure.
Easily.
Why are people not talking more about that? Why did I not even know she was in this movie?
Same. I agree, because I mean, she's the best part of the Conjuring series.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'm so glad to see her like
actress.
in something other than like a horror. And
no, she was absolutely fantastic.
I really hope that she's in the Lady Gaga movie that's coming out about.
Oh yeah, the Gucci.
The fashion Gucci, yes.
Yeah.
House of Gucci, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. Although I also did like Ray Liotta's performance. He plays twins.
Ugh, really? Yeah. I hated Ray Liotta. First of all, wait.
But I think you're supposed to hate his first character he plays.
No, I hated the twist that Ray Liotta was like a twin.
Well, I mean, it wasn't
I was not
a
feeling
twist
it.
twist. It was just like
Not, yeah, it wasn't a twist.
Yeah.
It was weird. I thought it was weird. And so here's a fun fact about that. Apparently, they were trying to cast somebody else. I don't know who they were trying to cast, but he was asking for too much money. So David Chase asked Ray Liotta, "Hey, do you want to play two characters? And we'll just write it that he's a twin." And Ray Liotta was just like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah, it's either Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. You know that.
Yeah,
so.
it's got to be one of those.
Yeah.
Ray Liotta, the guy that they've been after to be, they wanted him so bad in The Sopranos, and he kept saying no.
Really, and
which is why it was a surprise
yeah.
when the first Ray Liotta disappears. It's just like, oh, they really blew their load on this character already.
Yeah, yeah.
For this the coveted White Rabbit.
Yes. So this is a complicated script, right? I mean, you're trying to deliver to Sopranos fans a prequel that tells the story about, not only how Tony Soprano became him, but his relationship with Dickie Moltisanti. But then you also want to tell a new story and you want to add in other elements. So they made the decision that, okay, well, if we're going to tell this story and Tony grew up in New Jersey in the 60s, then we're going to have him in Newark for the riots that broke out in 1967. One of the most prolific riots that happened in the long, hot summer of 1967 that happened in this country, and one that actually really redefined Newark as a city. You can't really stress enough how important these riots were in Newark's history.
Okay. Full disclosure, I didn't know about these riots.
You did not know about these.
I did not know about these riots. So I learned about it through The Sopranos and you, Nicole. So thank you.
There you go. Well, my mother remembers it, and she remembers being scared. I mean, she lived in West New York. And, hearing about it, being that close, West New York is in somewhat proximity to Newark, and she was scared of it. It happened over the course of 4 days in July. 28 people died.
Oh, just 28?
Just 28.
I know. So cold. I sound like Liv.
Yes, you do. Yes. Antagonize me for it. Why don't you? And yeah, it was, people were tired of the way they were being treated by the police. And, at that point, it was a predominantly black area and people let their voices be heard, but it got really, really violent and it was very destructive. And it's actually
lesson learned. So 50 years later, nothing changed, basically.
Well, these riots are actually cited. Now, I don't know if I agree with this, and I can't tell you too much about Newark in such great depth, but I don't know if I completely agree with this commentary, but a lot of people cite this as the major factor for the decline of the city of Newark, because before that, it was bustling. And after that, I think Newark is still trying to rebuild itself as a major city. There's a lot of reasons that cities go under. You can't just say it was because a lot of people got mad for 4 days and burnt shit,
Yeah, no. What about the mob?
Yeah.
And their hand in Newark, so.
Yeah, white flight, just kind of systematic racism is also a thing, which is one of the things that they were, upset about. And just, sometimes cities get left behind. Mm-hmm. And Newark definitely did. So point is that they decide to tell their story with this as a backdrop. Now, right. This is to me, this is a really big historical event that happened that they wanted to put in here. And if you're going to use something as big as that, as historically speaking, you're going to want to say something with it. So they have the side story of Dickie Moltisanti and a character named Harold McBrayer, who's kind of used to work for him and then becomes, pretty much his nemesis in a new gang that is going to thrive in this area. That is all black, right? Trying to compete with the Italians.
Yeah, he is the antagonist, and he is, the movie was really trying to make a good point here, an important point. Crime comes in all colors, guys. As if
yes,
we didn't know
does.
that. It's just why I don't know. What did you think of that decision? It's all right, let's introduce our first major black character, I guess, in the Sopranos universe. and
yeah,
let's turn
I guess
him into
it's
the
about
antagonist.
time. Yeah, well, it was interesting because this is one of my major complaints, I guess, is that the script was kind of complex. They were trying to do a lot with it. And apparently, David Chase was trying to do it under 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So everything kind of felt rushed.
Yeah.
That's my major complaint. Is that this
I don't
for a 2-hour film, which is long, it felt really rushed.
For a 2-hour film, this felt like an eternity for me. And yeah, I agree with you where it did feel a little rushed at times, and I'm just like, we're really zipping by here, and yet somehow this all feels like such an eternity for me. How did you do this?
Yeah, wow, what a feat.
How did you do this, guy?
Yeah.
The first half takes place in the late 60s. The second half takes place 4 or 5 years later after Joe Soprano's out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And, by this point, Dickie is running things basically and stuff. And, that is more or less the story. All right. Okay. I know I'm trying to respect that you're not trying to do spoilers. So
if you want to drop a spoiler, just so you know, you might want to not listen because Rolando's going to drop a spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to ask a major spoiler question here, guys. So sorry. We're about an hour in, so we held out pretty good. All right. Big question for you.
Yeah.
I know that you don't know anything. Did you know who Dickie Moltisanti was?
I knew he was Christopher's father.
Did you know? Okay, so but did you know his importance to the Sopranos?
That he was kind of Tony Soprano's mentor.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, with that said, did you not enjoy, but did you see the way he dies at the end of the movie? What was your level of satisfaction with this? The way they close out the movie?
Oh, it was so fast the way that the film ended.
It was fast, but did you? I don't know. Like, I guess my question here is just like, was this the way to go? Like the way. Did you anticipate, like, all right, Harold had nothing to do with his death, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it did not. Yeah.
It was Junior.
Mm-hmm.
That was a twist. That Junior is petty. He slips at a funeral, and now because Dickie laughed, he decides to,
he's probably
to put
jealous
a hit on him.
and all this stuff and wants power.
I guess, but is this, I don't know, did you, just watching this, it's just like, do you think this was a satisfying end to a character as prolific as Dickie was being built out to be?
Well, I think part. Yeah.
Or I was gonna say, or do you think it's fair for the Sopranos universe that we have come to build that, like, sometimes it's these small little missteps that ultimately cost our characters' lives?
So that's the thing, is that I think the show and the movie does a really good job of showing you, like, this you can die, like this you can get murdered, and that's just something that is with it, Like, you can have all the reasons. There's no sense of actual justice. There's no sense of closure. People just fucking die. And that's actually, like, it's nihilistic in some ways, but it's also, that's life, right? Oh, Is there any death that was ever satisfying other than Mussolini's? Like, I mean, there might have been others, but not every death is like that. A lot of times it's abrupt and you have questions and you don't feel right about it. And that's actually the most accurate way that they can do it. So I actually liked that. I also think that the deaths that happen at the hands of Dickie were really fucked up, but I enjoyed seeing that because how fucking true is that? I mean, what kind of monster is this man?
You enjoyed him killing Giuseppe?
Giuseppina?
Giuseppina, thank you.
So at the moment she said that, I was like, you're pretty much assigned that you're.
Why would you
die.
even? I was so mad at her. I was just like, why? Like, why? You just keep this to yourself. You're his Goomba. First of all, you owe him nothing. Yeah. You owe him nothing. Goomba?
But like, she actually had a conscience, and she goomah. She had a conscience, and she wanted to do right by him and confess to him because he was giving her something. But it's like, you're talking to someone who has no conscience. You're talking to someone who does not look at you as a person. He says he loves you, and then he fucking strangles you and lets your body float in the ocean. And he killed his father, right? So like,
and he
it's a cutthroat world out there. All these people care about is themselves and their power. Mm-hmm. And that is, it was really well shown to us in that way. And it was kind of shocking too, where it was just like, oh wow, he'll just kill anybody. Like anybody.
Except Harold.
Well, it ain't for a lack of trying. But
that's not true, because he had a clear shot. He didn't take it.
He took it, but then he saw Harold, and then they had that moment, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So I
Were
don't
they
know.
in love? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he
No,
was
but
like
you know
C in
who
the back.
I kept wanting to talk to Eddie about this, but he's not a fan of Sopranos. He's only seen like maybe a handful of episodes, if that, and he doesn't know Junior. But is Junior gay?
Why would you say that?
So there was, okay, in The Sopranos. You know how like when a character, so first that was insinuated once about him where he loves to eat pussy, and like the talk of the town was just like, well, guys who eat pussy are gay, and you know why that is, right?
Why?
You make a face too, but like I guess maybe as a gay man I understand the logic here. Is because you can't get it up for a woman, so like you have to please her with your tongue, and so that's why you don't fuck. And here, it's come up in The Sopranos before that he just loves eating pussy, and then like someone called him out as gay, and he had that person killed as a result because you don't fuck with Junior. But here again, I don't know. There was just something about maybe Corey's performance. It was just like, oh, they asked him about his girlfriend, and he was just like, oh, she can't make it. It's like, oh, your girl, she never makes it and stuff because maybe she doesn't exist. And then when he was suffering back problems, he said he couldn't up, and like even she goes like, any excuse not to fuck. So my question here is, and this is gonna go out to anyone who actually listens, anyone who is a Sopranos fan. It's like my theory was Junior gay this whole time? That's why he never had kids. Maybe, possibly.
Maybe. Do you think he was also in love with Dickie?
No, I don't think that at all.
Why not? But he's in such deep, he's so deeply repressed and so shameful that it turned into hate.
I guess when your love lasts you, I guess if you don't try to murder them, were you ever really in love?
Exactly. And also, if all they do is mock you, I mean, he definitely has a very disturbing, fragile ego, and he's a toxic masculinity guy. But like, it could also be that, sometimes. Maybe. I mean, that well, he's in this world. That's what people do, Yeah. Like the standards are different. Maybe we can't answer this question. We have to ask a mob person. Hey guys, call in and let us know.
Yes, please.
So that's a good question, and yeah, I think maybe you might be right.
Maybe. I hope so. I'm gonna get so much because I did a Reddit. I was on Reddit to see like what the fans of Sopranos thought of the movie, and someone had asked that. It's just like, I have a theory that he's gay, and like the rumor was so quickly dismissed because it's like, how could a gay guy eat pussy? I'm just like, well, you guys are obviously straight and don't understand why a gay guy would eat pussy instead of. I'm saying Eddie would be mortified if he if he was here with us today.
He'd be like, move on.
Yeah.
So maybe we should in honor of Eddie.
Yeah. I do have another question for you though.
Sure. Okay.
So do you think that I'm trying to like ask you this but not like making it seem like I'm trying to rush this episode to end, but like it's one of my questions that I had on my mind, which was just like, do you think, all right, you said you like mob movies, do you think this was a good mob movie?
Yeah, I actually do.
Okay. Do you think it needed to be a Sopranos movie?
Oh gosh, I think the reason why it wasn't, to me, overall as successful as it could be is because it was a Sopranos movie. I think it was trying so hard to deliver for fans that the story that this movie was telling got like fucking swept under the rug towards the end. Right.
And if you look at the tomato reading, it got a 70 from the critics, but like it's got like a 58 from the fans, right? And then when I was on Reddit, like the fans are not a fan of this movie. They did not like it.
Yeah, because they expected something else, probably.
Right. I think they expected something else, and I also think on some other hand though, it was just kind of just like I thought this movie was fucking boring as all hell.
Yeah, I actually did not find it boring. I thought it was pretty well paced. It kept me, engaged for most of it.
Maybe. Go ahead.
I was more interested in this Dickie versus Harold story, but then they kept inserting Tony Soprano.
For a handful of times, yeah. I think so. I agree with you. I actually, to be honest, if I could watch a movie, I would probably watch a movie from Harold's point of view only, and watch a movie of this black man who was a runner for the white mob lord, and decides, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to start my own black gang, and we're going to fucking take down this white mob, this white man. And I would totally watch that movie and watch this power struggle.
Yeah. No,
that would have been a much more fascinating movie,
and I think
to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that story could have been a little bit more fleshed out, because then at the end they just gave us that little bonus that him moving in and like all his white neighbors are, upset. But it's like, well, he's still living and he's successful. But it was like, that wasn't enough of a satisfying end to their story for me. And even then, like after that kind of like them shooting each other in the streets, the moment where they both could have killed each other, but they didn't. And then we didn't see Harold for a period of time.
I don't think we saw him again.
Yeah, and that was it. And it was like, we just heard that his cousin died, and then that was it. Yeah. And then it was just like, wait a minute, but what is the story? What's going on with it? So it was like, there was that story. What were you going to say?
No, that's it. Like, because that's where, right. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like when Dickie dies, it turns out that he didn't die because of anything that Harold had to do, right? Harold is almost like forgotten, right? And suddenly Harold disappears, and now it's just like this random act of violence that kills off Dickie, which in the Sopranos world makes sense, but I guess maybe for me, for this movie, for this ending, it just felt completely unsatisfying.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for this contained movie, it just felt like, all right, well, we did for a movie that's trying to tell a racially not motivated, racially, there's a racial tensions going on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then to drop the ball at the end like that, especially for Harold's character, I feel it's just like, all right, so you were trying to do, you were trying to say something, but you couldn't muster up the words, I feel like.
I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with it though. I think that, I think it was nice that it was setting up that that Dickie would fall at his hands, and then he doesn't. Actually Harold doesn't even need to kill him, and he wins at the end of the day. I liked that. Well, I mean, he was holding $10,000 in his pocket and got to flash it off in front of his racist neighbor, in his like affluent neighborhood. So that's, and he's still alive. So that's winning.
True. That is winning in the mob world.
So yeah, I guess so. And yeah, I didn't feel like it didn't deliver on that commentary. I feel like whatever commentary they were trying to say, for the Black community, it wasn't thoroughly done, and I didn't get it as much as I wanted to. Yeah. It was the seeds were planted, and then I didn't see it grow.
I feel like I must have missed the ending for Harold then, because I might have been in the bedroom complaining to Eddie about
Yes, that's true. The moment you saw it, because it's like the movie
because now I'm wondering, it's just like, I don't remember seeing this. So
yeah, it was a couple of titles, and then they went right back to Harold. So
that was like an after credits scene.
Yeah. Well,
it
was mid credit scene.
So once the credits started rolling, I was just like, I'm out.
Oh, so then you missed it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like so confused. I'm like, I don't remember this scene. Okay. Who the fuck do these guys think they are? Fucking Marvel? Like, I'm not going to say that after credits. We ended on black in Sopranos. With the pinky swear?
And then the music playing. Oh my God.
It was a terrible ending.
It was a terrible ending.
I honestly don't think that they developed the relationship between Tony and Dickie that well.
Yeah, so they have so what I was going to say was they have this whole, war going on between Dickie and Harold, his once runner and now his nemesis. Then you have the relationship between Dickie and Tony, and then you have Dickie and his whole crisis. He kills his father, he kills his goomah or whatever.
Who, by the way, we didn't say this, was the wife of his dad, dad's wife. Second wife, I guess.
Fucking gross. And then at the end of it, he cries because he can't see Tony Soprano anymore. So it's like this character, and then he like has this weird therapeutic relationship with the father who he killed, twin brother, right? So it's like there's
uncle,
like
some might say
there's some sort of him falling apart and him like trying, maybe he feels guilty, but that's not developed enough for me to even feel like Dickie Moltisanti has some sort of conscience, right? So there's these three stories that are being conflicted, that are trying to be told in the story, and they all just get wrapped up really fucking quickly at the end, and none of them feel like they were fleshed out well and well told. And it's really disappointing because, like I said, I actually did enjoy the movie, but the ending was so rushed. Like the last half hour, maybe even the hour of it, by the time Michael Gandolfini comes into it, everything just goes by so quickly, and you're like, what? Like, all this really rich stuff was planted, and then they're like, oh yeah, fuck, we have to cut it close to David's 2-hour limit. You know, it's just like, it was actually kind of disappointing because it had the potential to be really good.
Those Warner Brothers execs were just like shitting bricks. It's just like,
Yeah.
fuck, we're never going to be able to do another Sopranos property if we don't get this 2-hour mark.
Seriously, yeah. And it's like, all right, let's cut it up. All right, and insert the theme music here. It was the fact that they inserted that music and they had that like weird like, and this is when Tony becomes himself. Oh, and we didn't even talk about the one thing that I actually absolutely did not like was the narration by Christopher and that beginning weird dolly through the cemetery where you're hearing all these stories of dead people and we settle on Christopher's. That
Not
was
just dead
fucking
people.
Stupid.
I'm pretty sure those were all previous characters on The Sopranos.
Whatever. It didn't
But,
work.
The narration was added after. Like I think they did an edit without it, and they kind of felt they needed something more. So they had Michael Imperioli come in to do the narration.
I fucking hate Hollywood, man. They think they need more, and then it's so stupid. Christopher has 5 lines as a narrator. He's not needed. And then I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Complain. I love hearing it.
Be like, it was just like, oh, I'm going to tell you about the story of the guy who made me. And it's like, and that's him. That's the guy who made me. And then at the very end, he comes back in again and he says, and that's the guy who sent me to hell, or like who I went to hell for. That's all fucking his narration provides us with.
No, he narrated like a couple of times in the middle.
Fucking
They
barely.
were like forgettable, but yeah.
They were forgettable.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it was needed. However, I remember how I talked about like this weird spirituality in The Sopranos, like that. I at first was just like, I don't think this works, but in retrospect, I'm just like, you know what, this does work in the Sopranos universe. Like, as it's just like I don't agree with it, but it makes sense.
It might make sense, but it was not done effectively, and it was not done well. Let's just say that. And
I've come to not hate it, but I hated the pinky.
I hated the pinky.
Moment.
I hated the insert of the fucking music that everyone's been waiting the whole goddamn movie to hear. The close up. Everyone loves that fucking song. Who loves The Sopranos? And then the weird shot of Michael, and it's like, okay, now smile, knowing that you're gonna be the next boss and have a hit show about you for 6 seasons. Like, it's just also like tongue in cheek, and it's also delivering to like fans and being like, yeah, we know how awesome this show is. Oh, this is the guy that. The last shot was like that shot looking up at the Michael Gandolfini.
Oh, at Michael Gandolfini. Yeah. Okay.
And it was like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna be the crime boss. Oh yeah, right. And now I'm gonna be everyone's favorite crime boss, Tony Soprano. It's just like so fucking stupid.
Not everybody's favorite crime boss. Not mine. My favorite crime boss is Gus from Breaking Bad.
I never watched that show, so.
Ugh.
But it's I'm speaking sarcastically here because
I know. But hang on. But actually, that is the reason I bring up Breaking Bad though was because I want to sum this up. I love Breaking Bad. I prefer Breaking Bad over The Sopranos. But you know how Netflix dropped a Breaking Bad movie called El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had no desire of watching it because I'm just like, Breaking Bad is done. I don't need to revisit this world.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very much so how I ended up feeling at the end of this movie.
You answered the question. Was this needed?
I don't think it was needed.
No.
I don't think this movie was needed. And I actually think this movie would work better as a non-Sopranos movie where I don't have to worry, when I don't have to cram in this backstory. I don't need to, like, there was a certain point in this movie where they're like showing me just like, this is Paulie Walnuts, this is Big Pussy, this is it's just like, I don't need that. Like, if this was like a regular mob movie, we wouldn't have this fucking roll call,
Exactly, yeah. Or if you're gonna do a roll call, do it like they did it in Goodfellas, where it's like, hey, there's Tony 2 times, and there's this guy, like, just fucking get it out of the way and do it,
Yeah,
like,
and it's just like, it was, yeah, I feel this movie would have worked better as a non-Sopranos movie. I don't know if it would have gotten made because maybe that was the stipulation that Warner Brothers came with David Chase. Like, David Chase is like, I want to make a mob movie. And they're like, all right, is it Sopranos? No. Make it a Sopranos and we'll give you the budget.
Well, my answer is exactly the same as yours. So I, ditto on that. But I want to read you something. You ready for this?
I can't wait.
David Chase has expressed interest in producing a sequel to The Many Saints of Newark that follows Tony Soprano in his 20s, provided he would collaborate with former Sopranos writer Terrence Winter. And upon hearing this, Winter replied he would do it in a heartbeat. So we're getting a sequel.
Ew. They first has to get ordered. That's A. And number 2, did this movie feel like a movie to you?
Kind of.
Because this movie felt like fan fiction to me. Like this. It even the way it looked for me felt a little bit like I don't know, college level-y.
Oh,
I don't know.
wow.
This might be harsh of what I'm saying, but like you didn't get that vibe like when you watch it. This felt like this felt like
a little bit.
those fan movies that like fans make and stuff. And this is what it felt like.
It also felt like it was delivering to me and all the things that people want from like, you know, a period mob film, you know, like, oh, this isn't directed by Martin Scorsese, but it practically is, because listen to our music and look at the fast editing and look at the abrupt cuts and the use of, you know, moments of silence in comparison to all the other moments of music. Like the key things that make a Martin Scorsese movie his movie, they used in this. And it's just kind of at the same time, it's like, if I want to actually see a mob film that doesn't go in this direction, that breaks away from what Martin Scorsese defined. And
so you want to see
in that way, it did feel that way to me, because it felt like like someone who loved Martin Scorsese movies that just wanted to make that. Yeah.
So do you want to see a mob movie from the point of view? Now I'm pitching here. A mob movie from the point of view of the wife. Have we gotten that before? Just the wife. I don't want to. The mob story will be there, but like this is all going to be just the point of view of Carmela, basically. Oh. And I know the show tried to give us like just Carmela centric episodes, usually centered around her affair with like the pastor or whatever it was. Or was he just Italian? I don't remember.
We kind of got that. There's a film called Married to the Mob, but it takes it in a slightly different direction. Yeah.
Is it a comedy?
It's a comedy. Michelle Pfeiffer's in it. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it has the point of view of the woman. Yeah,
she has mob wife energies.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, Michelle Pfeiffer is great in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I love her.
Well, there we go. I guess
there you go. Yeah,
remake it. Just remake it for us.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah. I think one of the only mob movies in recent history that I can think of, or gangster movies in recent history that I can think of, that did not feel like another gangster movie was American Gangster. That was a pretty good movie.
Is that Denzel Washington?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty good. I would recommend it. I like it.
I'm not a big mob movie, and yeah, it's shockingly
you would like it because one, it's not about Italian mobsters.
I'm not racist against Italians.
Yes, you are. You hate Italian food, and
I do. You're right. Oh my god, maybe I do have beef with Italians.
It's a wonder you're friends with me.
I know, right? The half Cuban really makes up a lot of the work here.
But two, it doesn't feel, like a mob movie trying to be a Martin Scorsese movie, and it's not a Martin Scorsese movie. It's a Ridley Scott movie, so maybe you might like that one. And they actually reference the character in American Gangster in this. Remember when he goes to the horse track or something, and he meets another? That's that character.
Oh,
who's based on a real life person.
Oh, the one who looked like a pimp.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was a prolific gangster in the 70s.
I didn't know this. Okay.
His name was, let me get it really quick, Frank Lucas.
Frank Lucas. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So that's based on a real person. That's who they're referencing, the person who American Gangster is about. So.
Okay. Well, look at that.
Cool. Well.
Now I might check out this movie for sure.
Yeah.
I will definitely tell you this much. If I never seen The Sopranos, well, I like the show. It was fun rewatching the pilot, and I rewatched the pilot and I rewatched the last episode because those are.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did too. So
yeah, I think they give you an overall encompassing feel of what the show is.
Yeah, his fondness for the ducks is my favorite part. I love that so much.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Did you notice though that they kind of reshot one of in the first episode where you know how Tony sees the shooting in the movie? It's in the pilot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We see it again. It goes down a little differently, so I don't know what that's about. Yeah, so whatever.
Yeah,
that's it. I just wanted to bring that up.
All right, cool. Well, I guess that's, what we had to say about this one.
I know. What a lackluster ending. As you know what
is appropriate for the Many Saints of Newark.
I was gonna say, like, it sounded, we came off very anticlimactic in the end, but like The Sopranos did have that effect where like sometimes these big showdowns would be very anticlimactic on purpose. It was part of David Chase's, like, the way his writing went. Like, there's a lot of build up and tension, and then when nothing happens, it's like the biggest like blue balls fuck you, you know. But he was good at that kind of stuff.
He was.
So that's what we're doing here, guys.
We're giving you, David Chase would approve. So if you enjoyed this episode and if you want to share some of your own commentary with us, or if you're someone who's in the mob and, wants to give your thoughts on these pieces, contact us. Ways you can contact us: Instagram at Remakes, Reboots, Revivals, Facebook.com/Remakes, Reboots, Revivals, Gmail, Remakes, Reboots, Revivals @gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Remakes Podcast. And we have a phone number that you could call in and share your thoughts with, and that number is
862-248-2326. That's 862-248-2326. Give us a call.
And I guess on that note, we will see you guys next week. So
stay an original.